and an unsurpassed, penetrating and perfect Dharma is rarely met with, even in 100,000 million kalpas. Having it to see and listen to remember and accept, I vow to taste the truth of the Tathagata's words. I am so grateful we're studying Thich Nhat Hanh and his teachings during this time. It seems so appropriate that that which was born out of a previous war and the trauma and the wounds is arriving right here for us right now, because of course they're timeless. And well, I think what we'll do in the coming weeks is Thich Nhat Hanh, I've mentioned, has beautiful teachings about anger, not turning away from anger. He also has beautiful teachings about fear. He also has beautiful teachings about climate change. So we'll do all of that. But I'm glad we're going to talk about love tonight, because it feels like that's the gift of practice and Dharma, is that in all this, Thich Nhat Hanh didn't take sides. He just saw it all as suffering. And he I guess the words that came to me is he paid dearly for it, because both sides were mad at him. Because of course we always want people to take our sides, and there are right sides and there are wrong sides. But for him, the through line was, let's just find some way to be here with and for all beings, because everybody's suffering here. So it's a little, I keep saying this, there are so many wonderful little Thich Nhat Hanh books that have been on my shelf forever and ever, and I keep pulling them out and going, oh my goodness. This one, Cultivating the Mind of Love, the Practice of Looking Deeply in the Mahayana Buddhist Tradition, is actually, that I'm not going to go into that tonight, but he does this amazing thing where he talks about the first person he ever fell in love with, and that he was a monk and she was a nun, and how their practice, they never consummated it because they wanted to keep deepening their love to include everyone. And so he brings forward really deep and profound Buddhist teachings that deepened for him as he stayed with the depth of the love that another human being ignited in him. And then, so I'm going to share some of that. And then there's another one, The Blooming of the Lotus, Guided Meditation Exercises for Healing and Transformation. And there's so many wonderful meditations in here that I may share some at another time, but I'm going to share one tonight. But first, Thich Nhat Hanh says, when you listen to a Dharma talk, kind of like this, just allow the rain of the Dharma to penetrate the soil of your consciousness. Don't think too much. Don't argue or compare. I'm just thinking, what a break from all the stuff that goes on in our brains. He's just saying, relax. Playing with words and ideas is like trying to catch the rain in buckets. Just allow your consciousness to receive the rain, and the seeds buried deep within will have a chance to be watered. Consciousness in Buddhism is said to be composed of two parts: store consciousness, the alaya vijnana, and mind consciousness, the mano vijnana. In our store consciousness are buried all the seeds representing everything we have ever done, experienced, or perceived. It's all these seeds. And when a seed is watered, it manifests, it starts to grow in our mind consciousness. The work of meditation is to cultivate the garden of our store consciousness. As a gardener, we have to trust the land, knowing that all seeds of love and understanding, seeds of enlightenment and happiness are already here. It's already here in this crazy world. It's each one of our jobs to water it, and we have a choice moment after moment. So the seeds that we water help not only our own heart and anxiety and fear and the next action, the next thought, but it actually helps the whole world. We'll go on about that. It's already here, so you don't have to think too hard or take notes during a Dharma talk. You don't even have to remember any of this. What a relief. We only need to be here and to allow the seeds of love and understanding that are buried deep within us to be watered. That's what the Dharma does. It's not just the teacher, it's not just the words, it's the violet bamboo, the yellow chrysanthemum, the golden sunset. You could say the plum blossoms outside, or the call of the blue jay, or the green grass and the sunset are all speaking at the same time. Anything that waters these deepest seeds in our storehouse consciousness is the true Dharma and is love. There is a baby Buddha in our store consciousness. There is a baby Buddha in each one of you. I would say little baby Buddhas in each cell, but for right now, we'll just say there's a little baby Buddha inside of you. And we have to give him or her a chance to be born and to grow. When we touch our baby Buddha, the seeds of understanding and love that are buried within us become filled with bodhicitta. Bodhicitta is the heart and mind of enlightenment, the mind of love, of wanting to wake up with and for all beings so that everybody across time and space is safe and protected and well. This isn't just like fretting about what's happening over there in Ukraine. This is deep watering practice. You know, the gardeners, deep watering. Water all the way through. When bodhicitta, the mind of love, is awakened, from that moment on, everything we do or say nourishes the baby Buddha within us. That's our job. And then there's more and more joy and confidence and energy. According to Mahayana Buddhism, awakening to bodhicitta, touching our mind and heart of enlightenment, our mind of love, is the moment the practice begins. Our mind of love may be buried deep in our store consciousness under many layers of forgetfulness and suffering. We just keep watering it. All those people out there, you think, how could they do those things? Everybody has a baby Buddha inside of them. It's our acts of kindness and how we be. This is how we change the world. Deep understanding of this and the Dharma takes place slowly. If you tell me you already understand, I feel a little pessimistic. If you don't understand, you're right on track. Just keep opening and softening and listening. You think you understand, but you may not have understood. If you say you do not understand, I feel more optimistic. Listen with the whole of your being. Allow yourself to be fully present, and the rain of the Dharma will water the deepest seeds in your store consciousness. If the seed of understanding is watered, tomorrow while you are washing the dishes or looking at the blue sky, that seed may spring forth, and the fruits of love and understanding will grow beautifully from your store consciousness. We all know you're just walking around grumbling or not paying attention, and then all of a sudden it's like it's like a little sprout opens, and it's just, you can't believe the yellow of the daffodil, or a child giggles, or something happens, and suddenly the love that you had completely forgotten was there remembers itself and ignites itself. Okay, so here's, now I'm going to read you, and this is going to be an act of faith for all of you. There is a sutra called the Avatam Saka Sutra. I love the Avatam Saka Sutra, and we will probably never teach it here because it's a sutra that's about this thick, and it is so far out that it's like, if you want to just zoom around in the cosmos, read the Avatam Saka Sutra. It's my understanding is that when Buddha was first enlightened, this is the way the story goes, is that what he described to people was the Avatam Saka Sutra as like the whole cosmos, and everybody went, huh? Nobody understood. So that's when he started talking about the Four Noble Truths, and that there's suffering and that there's an end of suffering, and little by little we can get that. But the Avatam Saka Sutra, well, you really have to let your mind soften and go, and I highly recommend it. But I'm going to give you a little taste of it, okay? This is what Thich Nhat Hanh was taught as a 16-year-old novice, this part of the Avatam Saka Sutra, and he memorized the last verse, and he would say it all the time. So this is the ground out of which these teachings came. It's about mind and about how we create the world with our mind. Study the mind. Are we watering our thought loops, our karmic inclinations, or are we watering deep seeds of love? So just listen now, okay? Don't try to understand. And if you don't understand, that's perfect. Let the words just water your heart. If people want to know all Buddhas of all times, they should contemplate the nature of the cosmos. All is but mental construction. It's like a painter spreading various colors. Delusion grasps different forms, but the elements have no distinctions. In the elements there is no form, and no form in the elements. And yet apart from the elements, no form can be found. In the mind, there is no painting. In painting, there is no mind. Yet not apart from mind is any painting to be found. Here's his commentary. It all depends on the way we see. The mind invents countless forms and ideas, and the world is a product of that kind of grasping. The elements, water, fire, earth, and space, and the form in your mind seem to be two different things. But if you look deeply, you see there is no form in your mind unless the elements are there. And there are no elements unless the forms are there. Forms and elements interbe. One cannot be without the other. Here's more of what he memorized as a 16-year-old. That mind never stops manifesting all forms, countless, inconceivably many, unknown to one another. Just as a painter can't know their own mind, yet paints due to the mind, so is the nature of all things. His commentary. A master painter may not know their own mind, but draws from their own mind. The nature of phenomena in the world is like that. The nature of things is that they are born from our own mind. The world as it presents itself to us is a mental construction. Do you know that? That you are constructing the world moment after moment, and we are constructing the world together? This is very important. What seeds do we want to water? Here's more from the Avatam Saka Sutra. Mind is like an artist able to paint the worlds. The five skandhas are born from the same kind of functioning of the mind. There is nothing mind doesn't make. If people know the way mind functions to create all kinds of worlds, they will be able to see the Buddha and understand the true nature of a Buddha. And you will want to water the Buddha inside of you, because you will really come to believe that your squirrely little karmic mind is telling you the world is very small when it's very big and full of love. So here's his commentary. The mind creates everything. Our fear, our sorrow, birth, death, winning and losing, hell, love, hatred, despair, and discrimination. If we practice, we will understand the way the mind constructs things, and we will touch the Buddha. When I was a young monk, I learned these verses by heart, and I chanted them every day. Even though I practiced by rote, it helped water the seed of understanding, and slowly I began to understand. If you want to touch the Buddhas in the 10 directions, and the Buddhas in the 3 times, you have to look into the nature of the cosmos and discover that everything is a mental construction. Everything is mind. It doesn't mean intellect. It means something deeper, something individual and collective. Don't worry if you don't understand. You don't have to understand anything. Just enjoy the words of this beautiful sutra. If they make you feel lighter, that is enough. It is not necessary to feel a heavy weight on your shoulders. Someday, with no effort at all, you will understand. You only have to allow yourself to be here, to touch deeply each thing you encounter. Just be here and touch each thing you encounter. Walk mindfully, feel your feet on the earth, and help others with the whole of your being. That's all. This is the practice of non-practice. Straining your intellect only creates more obstacles. Listen deeply without using your intellect, and you will find yourself touching light and jewels and lotuses. And all you have to do is just touch what's right in front of you. It's all right here. Do you understand? Thich Nhat Hanh would worry if you said you did. Just keep looking and looking. And if your heart, something, Suzuki Roshi called Zazen intuitive body. The intuitive body, the deep heart knows. And that's what we keep honing on. That's why I want to present this during this time, when it's so easy to go into fear and dread, and there's good reason for it. But there's a Buddha in each one of us. There's love. That's what we keep watering and awakening. Okay. You ready to do a little, well, you sort of already been doing it, but I'm going to do a little guided meditation with you. So if you haven't already, or if you already are, just kind of adjust yourselves. Breathing in and out. Don't grasp at it. Maybe I'll tell you a story. In the old days when I was at San Francisco Zen Center, when I was young, the way they used to do Dharma talks with us to help us do this is Dharma talks would go on for hours. And you'd sit there and you thought your knees were going to break off and you were going to fall over dead or go just because you also weren't supposed to move. These maybe they still do that, but this in the old days. And you kind of like went beyond, and you couldn't follow what they were saying anymore because one, you were so mad that they wouldn't stop. And two, your concentration had to get so deep to be able to stay that it did feel like Dharma rain. Some of those talks, most of those talks, I have no idea what anyone said to me, but I know it was watering a Buddha inside of me. So that's a little bit what this talk is kind of meant to do in the midst of the circumstances of the world, is let's just let go. Just let go. This is called being in touch, looking deeply. Always aligning. They're like little gatas, aligning with in-breath and out-breath. In touch with a flower. Imagine a flower. I breathe in. In touch with the scent of a flower and its beauty, I breathe out. In touch with the sun in a flower, I breathe in. And knowing that without the sun there would be no flower, I breathe out. In touch with the cloud in the flower, I breathe in. And knowing that without the cloud there would be no flower, I breathe out. In touch with the earth in the flower, I breathe in. Knowing that without the earth there would be no flower, I breathe out. In touch with the air in the flower, I breathe in. And knowing that without the flower, without the air, there would be no flower, I breathe out. In touch with space in the flower, I breathe in. And knowing that without space there would be no flower, I breathe out. In touch with consciousness in the flower, I breathe in. And knowing that without consciousness there would be no flower, I breathe out. Knowing that the flower manifests from the 6 elements, I breathe in. And smiling to the 6 elements in the flower, I breathe out. Seeing the impermanence of the flower, I breathe in. And seeing the flower on the way to the garbage, I breathe out. In touch with the garbage, I breathe in. In touch with the impurity and smell of garbage, I breathe out. In touch with the garbage arising from the 6 elements, I breathe in. And smiling to the 6 elements in the garbage, I breathe out. Seeing the impermanence of the garbage, I breathe in. Seeing the garbage on the way to the flower, I breathe out. In touch with the cloud in the garbage, I breathe in. And knowing that without the cloud there would be no garbage, I breathe out. In touch with the earth in the garbage, I breathe in. And knowing that without the earth there would be no garbage, I breathe out. In touch with the air in the garbage, I breathe in. And knowing that without the air there would be no garbage, I breathe out. In touch with space in the garbage, I breathe in. Knowing that without space there would be no garbage, I breathe out. In touch with consciousness in the garbage, I breathe in. And knowing that without consciousness there would be no garbage, I breathe out. Here's Thich Nhat Hanh's commentary. This exercise helps us see the interdependent arising and non-duality of all that is. Interdependent arising is described in the Avatam Saka Sutra as interbeing and interpenetration. We must learn to see the one in the many and the many in the one. Non-duality means that there are not two, but it does not mean that there is only one. The notion one always goes with the notion of two and the notion many. If we can comprehend interbeing and non-duality, the one and the many and the many and the one, interpenetrating everything flowing in and out, we will be able to transform our anxieties and fears and to dissolve the barriers of perception that are formed by our habits of conceptualizing and discriminating and that end up in war. The boundaries between birth and death, being and non-being, defilement and purity will dissolve, and we will be able to live without fear in the freedom of this vast and open space and love. Thich Nhat Hanh's teachings seem so simple, and this is the ground in which they arise. These are the seeds that he watered and helps us water, and that the world is asking us to water. This is the gift as Dharma practitioners, I think, that we have to offer. Other people are doing diplomacy, other people are doing this or that. We're watering the Buddha inside. So I thought I'd break people into small groups. You'll have about 15 minutes or so, so maybe each person could have 4 minutes. Or here's a couple questions. Can you imagine what would it be to live without fear, even in the most difficult of circumstances? What would that be? What would the practice of living without fear be? And what would that have to do with, and how do you water the seeds of goodness and love inside of you? Is there some relationship in that? Or anything else that came out of